Hello everyone, very good morning, good afternoon and good evening to all of you. This is your host Vaibhav. In today's session of correlation and regression, we will be considering the price development so far to figure out which instrument is trading in which direction with how much momentum, whether we can exploit the prevailing momentum if it is strong enough, and how strong it is. We can always look at the relative timeline of the same class of instruments and figure out the momentum as well as the strength of the momentum in relative terms so that we are trading in a best possible combination of the instrument and the momentum. So let us now head to the JForex 4, the newly released trading platform from the Dukascopy Bank SA. This is the EURUSD chart with the candle period defined at 5 minutes each, and I have added these SMA 24 and SMA 12 to look at the average price prevailing over last 1 hour and 2 hours respectively. And this is the Donchian channel band with a 24 and 48 hour combination to get us the range of last 2 hours and 4 hours respectively. Now if we have to look at these prevailing circumstances and figure out the move and possible projections, we can see that as of now, as at the start of the North American trading session, here the momentum for the Euro USD is bearish. Now the question is if it is going to last or if we should be preparing for a possible reversal. So we have to look at the relative strength for these Euro USD in relation to other major currencies like GBP USD, AUD USD, NZDUSD, USDJPY, USDCHF, and of course, not to forget the USDCAD. And with that, we will be in a position to judge for the opportunity whether we should go for it or whether we should sit on the sidelines. Now, here the timeline is telling us that the Euro USD started the day in a bullish movement. Here it started at around 1.086 and went on to climb even above 1.09, but it wasn't really able to sustain that break above 1.09 and it reversed course to fall back towards this support zone of 1.085. If we look at its charting from the hourly time frame, here you can see that for the Euro USD, the formation has been of higher highs and higher lows on the hourly timeline. So if we consider even this move, as of now, it has to be considered as a corrective movement from these new swing high form. So from the swing traders perspective, the situation still remains bullish, but for the intraday traders, the situation is bearish because when we are looking at the intraday timeline, we have to think about then and there what we can do then and there to go for the trade and try to make money in that limited amount of time. So for that, we always have to look at what is happening in immediate term. Now here the Euro USD has been bearish, and if we don't really see it rising towards this prior swing high, I think in that scenario further breakout on the lower side can be exploited. But if it catches up to this immediate swing high, then I think it will be better to avoid any short selling trade, because if we see any significant rise from the current levels, that will give rise to the possibility of the possible reversal with consolidation as it is in the bullish bullish trend from the medium term perspective. So as a result of that, it becomes interesting to see how things unfold. So pay attention to the immediate price line for the Euro USD, and if it doesn't really climb towards even this immediate swing high, then that's a good omen for continuing to short it. But if it does go towards or even past this level, then we will have to change our stance and shift to the neutral gear so that we can wait it out and see how things unfold moving forward. Now, if we have to look at its relative strength, we will have to look at the other currencies timeline as well. For the AUD, The momentum has been of consolidation with the earlier bias on the bullish side, but then along with the other major currencies, it also dipped and the dollar gained strength. And if we look at its hourly candlestick time frame, here the formation is pretty much in line with these higher highs and higher lows. Even this low is higher than the prior swing low, so we still have to keep it as a medium term bullish trajectory, and only on the intraday time frame we can think about shorting it, but from the longer term perspective it is still in a bullish phase. Now if we have to look at its immediate movement, it is looking less bearish than the euro. We saw for the euro, the dip has been quite lot more in magnitude, and if we even look at this correction for the AUD, it is significant, but this kind of correction we didn't really observe for the euro when it was dipping earlier in the day, and even now the AUD is looking to gain the lost ground and it is climbing quite swiftly. So in that context, I think even if we have to keep an eye on further short sale trade later in the day, the Euro USD seems like a better choice. But for a possible reversal, then in that scenario we can shortlist the AUD to keep an eye on, and if I think if it climbs towards this immediate high of around 0.70, then that can be considered as a game changer, and further correction is going to give us opportunity to even try buy on dips. Now, given its tendency to rise faster from these lower lows, I would not really recommend short selling the AUD. But as I said, we can still keep an eye on euro. Now, for this relative strength and weakness, the momentum is bearish. The bias is bearish, with the euro having a stronger bearish momentum than the AUD. Now, let's see the story for GBP. For GBP, the things are looking a lot more bearish. It started to decline earlier compared to other major currencies, and even on the lower levels, it is not rising up that sharply as we are seeing for other currencies like AUD and Euro. It is apparently even much more bullish than the Euro. So, for ranking purposes, if we have to consider the strength of the bearish trend for these currencies against the dollar in today's session, then GBP is going to rank first, followed by Euro, and then it will be the turn of the AUD. Now let's see NZD. For NZD, the trajectory is much more closer to the its Asia Pacific peer, the AUD, rather than the European currencies like GBP and Euro, which are much on the weaker ground. So NZD is also strongly rising from the lower levels, and its rise from this level is quite spectacular to say the least. So I would not recommend trying to look for short selling opportunities in the NZD, just as is the case with the AUD. Here, the immediate projection from the medium term perspective are also not that bearish. So, putting that in context, it is more of an consolidation phase with these opportunities which we are seeing can be also utilized as the buy on dips trade. But for that, we need further consolidation with not much deep on the lower side. In that scenario, we can keep an eye on these Asia Pacific currencies of NZD and AUD, which are not seeing that selling pressure in today's session. And whenever these buying is happening on the lower side, it is immediately pushing the prices higher. And as I said, from the medium term perspective, also we have things much more favorable for a buy on dips trade here. So for European currencies, the things are looking much more bearish, as is the case with Euro and GBP. But for Asia Pacific currencies, things can be considered as of consolidation with intraday bias on the bearish side, but the medium term bias is still on the bullish side. Now we will have to invert the scales and look at these currencies of USDCAD, USDCHF, and USDJPY. The dollar has continued to gain throughout the day against most major currencies, so USD CAD is also no exception. But from these higher levels, we are seeing strengthening of the CAD. So as a result of that, we have seen the USD CAD giving up almost half of these gains, and it is closer to these prior swing high level. Now it's going to be interesting to see if it is going to act as the near-term support or not. As things stand, you can consider the USD CAD as a instrument which is not going to continue to rise much in today's session, at least as we have seen this sharp move on the lower side. So I think that puts a break on the runaway rise on the higher side beyond 1.34. We are more likely to see it consolidating, and the higher side gains can be capped at around these immediate swing high. And if we have to go for the strengthening of the dollar, as I said, the GBP is a much better bet, and euro is also there. So for possible reversal, we can't really rely on USD CAD also, as it had weakened quite a lot. Instead of that, we have the Asia Pacific currencies like AUD to look for a possible reversal of the momentum. And if we have to trade with the momentum, then we have the European currencies of Euro and GBP. Now let's see USDCHF. USDCHF apparently is one of the best with the trend trade here in line with its European peers. The CHF is also continuing to lose against the dollar. If we look at this timeline of today's price moves, earlier in the day till the start of the European trading session, the momentum was in favor of CHF. It was appreciating against the dollar, but after this consolidation, the tables turned and dollar started to gain, particularly after this consolidation phase between 9 to 12 GMT. And as things stand, the CHF is still depreciating, but I think if we look at its magnitude, it is a little over half a percentage point. Let's see what's the magnitude of decline for GBP. It's around the same, but if we count it from the higher side, then it is around 1 percentage point. For CHF, it is little less than 1 percentage point. So there is not much of a difference. Simply, I think we will have to go with the timeline of the event, and in that context, the GBP seems to be much more bearish, and it didn't really make any new 4-hourly swing high after this prior high formed at 5 GMT. So we still have the GBP as the most bearish currency against the dollar in today's session, followed by euro, and then after that is going to come the CHF, and we have to also consider JPY. And for JPY, the things turned the corner at around 5 GMT, which is almost the same time when the GBP also turned. And if we look at the rise of the USDJPY from lowest point to the highest point, it is more than 1 percentage point. So I think we still have the JPY as a more bearish currency compared to the GBP. So in today's session, the JPY is most bearish currency against the dollar, whereas AUD is the least bearish currency against the dollar. The momentum is on the side of the dollar. We have the USD strengthening against most major currencies. So in that context, we simply have to look at the relative strength of the other major currencies, and in this case the JPY being the most bearish is the most suitable trade for a buy on dip strategy for the US dollar. But if you are looking for the possible reversal of the dollar's momentum, then in that scenario, the AUD is going to be a better bet for any possible reversal of fortune of these major currencies trading against the dollar. Now, let's consider what's the story for equity segment. For equities, after the start of the US session, we have these sharp moves unfolding with the range of around half a percentage point for high to low difference. Now, given this volatility, I think we should first take a look on hourly candlestick chart, and in this chart we can see that after this substantial decline, the Dow Jones seems to be in a retracement mode, and in today's session the momentum is on the bullish side. From these intraday charting, we can see that earlier in the day the Dow futures were also trading with this bias on the bullish side, and after the start of the cash segment, here the sharp moves first on the lower side and then all that decline evaporating in just matter of few minutes is suggestive that the buying is coming in. And in this scenario we can keep looking for the opportunity to go long, but the best instrument for going long is going to be the one with the best bullish momentum. And in our charting scheme, the Nasdaq seems to be the best option to go for any long trade, but given its substantial rise from these current levels, it is going to be a difficult task to get an entry point with a suitable risk reward ratio. As things stand, the Nasdaq was actually the least bearish when the things were much more bearish for these equity segments, and now as the momentum seems to be shifting, we have the Nasdaq gaining the most ground with its substantial rise. So in today's session, if you have to go for a buy trade, then Nasdaq is going to be the first choice in the equity segment, and then comes S&P 500, which is also having this formation of higher highs and higher lows. But if you are looking for a possible reversal, then keep an eye on Dow Jones Industrial Average charting, and if you see that it is struggling to rise much and after do consolidation, you can even think about short selling the Dow. So that's my assessment looking at these price projections for the US equity futures, which are trading in a volatile manner after the start of the North American trading session. So that's all from my side for today's session. If any of you have any query or any idea to share, do write to me in the feedback and I will be more than happy to take the discussion forward. So thank you all for joining in. Have a fabulous day ahead, a profitable day ahead. See you next time around. Till then, goodbye.